Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I'm just a casual racer, and today we're in Le Mans Ultimate and I want to go through what some of the upcoming content is almost certainly going to be for Le Mans Ultimate over the next year, so long as Motorsports Games and Studio 397 are still around by then, and then also some more of projected content that's very likely to be considered to be added to the game. So as you can see on screen here, we have all of the content, the 7 tracks, the 7 hypercars, the 4 GTE cars, and the 1 LMP2 car that is currently in the game. And I would say in terms of car content, Le Mans Ultimate has an excellent selection of content for cars. Now the good news is, right, this is most of the 2023 content that's included in the game. We look at what's going to be coming in 2024, that's what we get here. And so you'll see this is all the content that will be part of the 2024 World Endurance Championship calendar. And so we're going to get an additional 4 hypercars. We're going to get, of course, the GTE class is being discontinued. The LMP2 class is being discontinued apart from at Le Mans. And so we're going to be up to 11 total hypercars and 9 total GT3 cars. I think, you know, that's a huge amount of cars, especially if you wanted to somehow mix the hypercars, the GT3 and the GTE class just for fun's sake. But we are getting, even more importantly, we're getting 4 new tracks from the calendar, and that's Losail International Circuit. That's where they host the Qatar Grand Prix. Imola Circuit, I mean, Imola is a famous track, right? And then we're getting Interlagos, another famous track, very popular, very common. And then the Circuit of the Americas, or COTA. And so 4 tracks. I'm really excited, of course, for Interlagos and Losail. Those are going to be great additions to race on. They're always, you know, fantastic. I mean, Interlagos is one of the great tracks of all time. And then Losail is actually one that, for being a modern circuit, I think is quite well done and one of the better modern circuits that's been made in the last decade or so. So, yeah, and the additional content for the 2024 season is really going to expand. You know, we're going to have 11 tracks, still a little low, but definitely in terms of the car classes, we're looking at a title that I could say over the next year could be ready for a full release. And so really nice selection. And one that hopefully, like, right, the WEC series works with them to continue to add more content, you know, 2025 and 2026, and perhaps we'll get some of that content, like in terms of tracks, as soon as they're announced. Those tracks will be added to the game, maybe as part of the release for the WEC calendar, a promotional aspect, which would be really cool to get more tracks into the game. Potential other addition to the game, we have a few cars I've picked out, common in other endurance championships, such as IMSA or 24H. We have the Mercedes-AMG GT3, the Acura NSX GT3. There could do some LMP3 class cars, which are popular in other series, such as the Ligier and Decline. I believe those are how you pronounce that. And those 2 cars it would be cool to have another class of car out there, although they are not that much faster than the GT3 GTE car. So, you know, we could see give or take, right? Now, there are some classic cars, I think, that will be coming to the title as well, and that is the LMP1 cars from early in the World Endurance Championships history. I think would be great. These 3 here, the Audi, the Porsche, and Toyota, are all Le Mans winners, all championship winners. And then if we go back a couple of years back when there were some LMP2 cars racing outside of just the Orca, we have the Ligier P217, and it's just an example. There's a few other. Dallara had one, and so if the LMP2 class is very popular, you can always look at grabbing a car from a few years ago and expanding that class. But more importantly, right, tracks. You know, even with all the additional tracks that they will be adding over the coming year for the 2024 season, we're still only at 11 circuits. That's a little low. The good news is, on the left here, there are 4 circuits which are almost certainly going to be considered to be added, as they were part of the WEC calendar over the last few years. And that is the Shanghai International Circuit, Silverstone Circuit, Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and the Nürburgring Grand Prix layout. And so these 4 circuits are, well, especially the ones that interested me the most are Shanghai and Hermanos Rodriguez, because they're not as common. Hermanos Rodriguez hosts the Mexican Grand Prix, and then the Shanghai International Circuit used to host the Chinese Grand Prix back in the day. And both of these circuits would be really exciting to see added, just because they're not super common. Shanghai used to host the 6 Hours of Shanghai, and then also Silverstone was extremely common on the wet calendar as well. So Shanghai and Silverstone, I think, have a very good chance of being added. Almost, I would say, if the game is popular, it's almost certainly they'd be added in some form, whether it's base content or as some sort of DLC. And then the other two circuits, I think, also have a high chance just because of their history on the wet calendar as well, making at least a couple of appearances. Now we get to the bottom right here, and this is a little more of a wish list, a little more of what would be great to add it. Daytona International Speedway, they have to add it. Whether it's via DLC or whatever, we could have, a little bit of an IMSA almost DLC with some American tracks, Daytona, Watkins Glen, and Road Atlanta. That would be cool, or just please include it. It gets us to 16 total tracks in the game if you add Daytona, along with the tracks here on the left. And then you'd have all three of the Triple Crown tracks for endurance racing with Le Mans, Sebring, and Daytona International. So that would be awesome. We'd be at 16 tracks at that point, and to me, with all the other car content we have, there's a game ready for a full release. So that would be my recommendation. I think there's a good likelihood that a lot of these other tracks I've mentioned, that just hopefully they can get the Daytona, and there's no issues with IMSA or things like that. We also have Watkins Glen as a possibility. The 6 Hours of Watkins Glen is a very prestigious race in IMSA. Great race. You've got Petit Le Mans, which is at Road Atlanta. That would be another great track to have added. And like I said, it almost fits a DLC pack really well. The Nürburgring Nordschleife layout, that's more of a famous, obviously it's more of a mix, kind of a lower level endurance race, but it's still a big major 24-hour race. People love the Nordschleife, so adding that would be awesome. And then Mount Panorama has their big endurance race now that's grown outside of the Bathurst 1000. So instead of supercars, they have the Bathurst 1000 that made that track famous. Now there's also the Endurance 12 Hours of Bathurst that's held there. That would be an awesome circuit as well. And that gets you to 20 total tracks if they were to have that. I don't know if all these are going to be added. Like I mentioned, I think these here on the bottom right are probably a little more of a toss-up, but especially those on the bottom left and the ones that I was going to show you before, I think that's a really, really strong selection. This content here is probably 80-90% likely to come to the title. And if we add some of those older WEC circuits plus another circuit, hopefully being Daytona, 16 tracks with these cars and all the content that's already in the game, we're looking at an extremely good title. And you combine that with the addition of a detailed career mode, adding, the chance for custom championships, and then you can take these tracks and you can mix them into the schedule too, which would be great, especially in like a single season mode or even over the course of like a career, type of mode. You would be able to diversify your seasons and make it really interesting. I mean, for me, if they have Daytona, I am so throwing that into the schedule if it's included in the game. So these are just some of the things. I think there's a really good possibility with lots of good content out there that can be added to Le Mans Ultimate. Hopefully Studio 397 and Motorsport Games sees that, they capitalize that, and they take an opportunity to bring that. I don't believe they're quite as limited as perhaps Kunos is or has been with the Assetto Corsa Competizione, in being that it's so tied down to just specifically content that is related to the Blancpain, or what used to be called the Blancpain International Series. But hopefully that is something that Studio 397 can take advantage of and grab some additional tracks, some additional content. I mean, like I mentioned, having some LMP3 cars would be awesome to add another class, even if it's just two of them. Just the variety would be great. To add another LMP2 car from the World Endurance Championships history would be great. And then, of course, really excited to get 11 different hypercars. We'd have here 9 different GT3 cars. I mean, these are awesome. I mean, the Ford Mustang's gonna be a lot of fun to see how that does in World Endurance Championship racing this year. And there's just a lot of great cars here, and it's just really exciting to see where this is all going. Hopefully this preview of content that's in development and likely to come is helpful. Most of all, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week.